Dudes, it's Gaz, and welcome back to another WARFRAME video. So we got the full information on the Trinity and Nyx Reworks coming in the 1999 update, and that's what we're going to be covering today. Basically going over how good these frames will be after these changes, how good they are right now, and basically if you should start, maining these frames or whatever in the new update. And spoiler, you probably shouldn't, but they're still looking a lot stronger than right now, so let's get right into it. Before we do, make sure you sub this channel. We do daily Warframe video uploads, build videos, news videos, discussion videos, all that kind of stuff in the right place for Warframe content. And yeah, even though Infested Liches are delayed until 2025, it's still going to be a pretty fun update, so I'll be definitely jumping in on day one just like the rest of you hopefully still are. So yeah, let's get right into it. Alright, so let's go over our forum post here. We've got the Trinity and Nyx full rework information here. So, as far as the Nyx changes, we're going to start with the Nyx changes, then we'll do the Trinity changes after that. So, their overall, mindset when reworking Nyx is that Nyx does not directly deal damage herself, but instead uses chaos across the battlefield, causing her foes to turn on each other. We are keeping the theme as the core of her abilities and have made some changes to increase the lethality of this chaos. So, she's not an ability DPS. She's just not, okay? If you want an ability DPS, play Sevigov, play Saren, play somebody else that's not Nyx, because Nyx is meant to be a, enemy manipulator. So that's what she's been doing. And a lot of her abilities are going to now have built-in radiation procs to synergize with other things in the game, including enemies attacking each other and doing increased damage because radiation procs do that. Starting off her new passive, if there are 5 or more confused enemies within Nyx's affinity range, she gains 200% increased critical chance on primary and secondary weapons. So this is her new passive. It is replacing her old passive where enemies basically wouldn't shoot at her if there was other targets to shoot. Confused is going to indicate radiation proc enemies or enemies affected by Nyx's mind control first ability. So any enemy that's rad proc within affinity range, as long as there's 5 of them, you'll get increased crit chance of 200% on primary and secondary weapons. So that means she will be a bit of a little gun buffer to an extent. Enemies will be fighting each other, and you'll also have a gun buff for your turret or whatever. They show that they have an example right here of how this works in mission. That is really loud. Okay, so as you can see right here on the UI, right there, Psychic Strike is the name of the new passive. So you rad proc 5 enemies, you get a little bit extra crit. Actually, it's not a lot more. It's basically an extra mod. Now, this is not going to be like Arcane Avenger, where it's 200% final crit. It's 200% modded crit. So think of it like a critical delay mod or point strike or whatever, but at 200%. And if you kill those enemies that are affected by it, you're going to lose the crit chance mid damage, basically. So keep that in mind. Having one enemy mind controlled will be very important for this because you're going to be killing so many enemies with your buffed up guns that you're not going to always have access to your buff as long as you're not casting your abilities as well. So she's going to be an ability-focused character, but not in the way you might think. Her abilities are staying up to make the enemies fight each other and buff your guns, not to actually kill them. But they should be killing each other, honestly. So yeah, a pretty decent passive to start off with. So you just basically cast Chaos, and then you have an easy crit buff on your pistol and primary. Alright, first ability, Mind Control. So we go from her passive to her first ability, and this ability is not going to change that much, but the things that are getting changed on it are going to be things you can't really notice as easily in a video like this. It's getting better AI for the enemy that's mind controlled, and additionally, the mind control target will now attack foes more aggressive, that's with the better AI, and deal guaranteed radiation procs on their attacks. So as they're shooting, as the mind control target is shooting enemies, it's going to rad proc them and add to your confusion meter. So basically, it will help you spread the rad proc, so you can always have your crit buff up. So that's good. Mind control targets are also crowd control immune, like foes with overguard, to optimize their time rampaging. For this reason, any crowd control effects are also clear from the target upon casting. That's good. So basically, if you mind control a heavy gunner or a bombard or whatever, they will not get knocked over. They will keep shooting the whole time. Additionally, you're getting some new UI elements for your mind control. This is already how this works in game, basically. You just basically mind control the enemy, then shoot them a bunch, so they get buffed up damage. But yeah, they're going to make it a lot easier to tell how much damage you're actually doing with the mind controlled target. They're also a highlighted summon to help keep track of them, so you can also see their damage numbers too, so that's great. You can see how ridiculous damage they might be doing if you actually buff them up crazy like in the footage. So the new HUD element is great. Also, Nyx retains the functionality of recasting this ability to release her original target, but if done while targeting another enemy, mind control will immediately be cast on them. So you can basically throw away your previous mind controlled target and mind control another enemy instantly without having to like hold down multiple buttons. So good stuff there. Here's a little bit of footage of their mind controlled target here. Look like about 32,000 damage, 5,400 damage. So it's actually able to kill a butcher. I don't think that's Steel Path though. It is Steel Path. So yeah, enemies damage stealing against each other is actually somewhat decent. So yeah, that's good. The ability already can kind of do this. But reminder too, this is Nyx's Helmeth ability. So that means this is going to be possible on every frame in the game. So if that looks like something that you might be interested in, having a mind-controlled minion that can do like pretty good damage, decent-ish damage, then maybe give it a shot. But keep in mind that enemies will be getting rad proc from the mind-controlled target. So if you're playing an invisibility character, just be careful about getting caught in the crossfires, enemies shooting each other, because that can be an easy way to die as like an Ivara or whatever. Now here's the strongest ability of Nyx after the change. And this is going to be a pretty major buff here to Psychic Bolts, her second ability. So it's normally her defense strip ability, but before we go over this, I want to show you how this actually works in-game right now. So the way that Psychic Bolts works in the current live version of the game is that Psychic Bolts is going to affect 6 targets. You throw out 6 bolts, and it will, with Power Strike, will remove all their armor and their defenses for that matter, so shields as well, and it will also slow them down. So yeah, but you can only have 6 enemies affected by this at a time. With the Pacifying Bolt augment, it goes to 9 targets. But yeah, it's still not like you can't armor strip the entire room in one cast, is what I'm trying to tell you. So throws additional 3 bolts. So now we have 9 bolts. So this augment will be very, very good, I'd say, going forward. Because once I tell you what they're buffing with this is going to be one of her main abilities. And it already is one of her main abilities. But yeah, as far as what they're changing with Psychic Bolts, it's actually going to still have the damage or the enemy cap. So it's still going to only be able to affect 6 enemies or 9 with the augment. But killing an enemy affected by Psychic Bolts will cause 2 more bolts to spread from it to unaffected targets. So that means that if you kill any of those 6 enemies that are armor stripped, it will spread the armor strip to other enemies. It will send out 2 bolts. So it doesn't say, I'm assuming it's still going to be, like the extra bolt will still be up to the cap. So if you kill one enemy and it sends out 2 bolts, it's only going to affect one of the enemies it goes after. So remains to be seen on that one. But yeah, it also is now display the duration upon casting. Nyx will also get some of the armor strip, or will get some of the defenses she removes back from the Psychic Bolt. This effect persists for 20 seconds, scaling with duration, as duration refreshes when further defenses are stripped. The amount of defense earned and the overguard and armor cap scales with ability strength. So yes, you heard that right. Nyx can get overguard from this ability now. It definitely does not do that right now in the live version of the game. Now, she cannot remove overguard with her ability, but if she attacks an enemy with this ability that has overguard, such as a Corpus Eximus that has overguard and shield, she would steal the shield, and she would get 500 overguard for hitting that enemy that has overguard, and she would remove the shield too. So, no overguard removal, but overguard like absorption basically. And as far as removing enemy armor, she can remove enemy's armor just like before, but it will also give her some armor too. Not that that's super important for Nyx, because armor health builds aren't exactly Nyx's foray. But yeah, so she can now steal overguard. So if you throw out your Psychic Bolts, let's just do an example right now in the sim right now. Let's say I threw out some Psychic Bolts in the sim, just in the sim, and right now there are 20 Exogoxes, so none of them have overguard. We're gonna get some overguarded enemies here. So what would basically happen is that let's just get 6 of them. Sure, I would get. No, actually, I think let's get 20 of them. Let's get 20 of them, just to show how this would work. So I'm gonna I would throw out my Psychic Bolts, and once I kill this enemy, first I would get like 3,000 overguard from that ability cast right there. Once I killed her, another Psychic Bolt will go after one of these other enemies and affect them that hasn't actually been armor stripped. So I would kill an overguard enemy. It would if there was this many Eximus like there is right now, I would be overguard chain stealing basically. It would be overguard from her, overguard from her, overguard from her. After I kill all of them, I'm just getting an overguard constant flow as long as the Psychic Bolts are still active. That is. So that being said, doesn't that sound pretty decent? I mean, like, overguard in general is a pretty strong mechanic in Warframe. So if you had, multiple Eximus, that's like 2,000 overguard from just one ability cast on a frame that also removes all their armor too. Not to mention, you would be also getting your crit buff as well, because that should be enough enemies to have your new passive affecting your weapons. So really, really powerful stuff right there. But yeah, let's keep going here through the descriptions. Yeah, this is going to be one of the game changer abilities for her. I would definitely say that this will be giving her a lot more survivability, because we're getting Overguard from hitting Eximus, and we're getting shields from hitting, like, Corpus, if you're fighting a Corpus. Keep in mind, the new Tech Rot infested enemies have shields, so you'll be able to steal shields from Tech Rot infested, and steal armor from Scaldra, and Overguard from both of them, because they both have Eximus, to be fair. So, showing how this works in mission, it's not exactly the best example, but it's still pretty decent. So they're going to throw out the Psychic Bolt, and as you can see, the Psychic Bolt went after someone else, and it's just a Psychic Bolt chain, pretty much. So this is going to be a really nice one, and I am looking forward to this buff the entire rework the most. So, good stuff there. And yeah, I do think the Augment mod might be worth it as well, because 9 enemies versus 6 enemies. We'll just see how constricted we are for modding space. Oh, additionally, the Pacifying Bolt's augment we just showed you will also apply 1 radiation proc on hit. So, very good for getting her passive active. The third ability, Chaos, has been largely unchanged, but now Chaos will apply 10 radiation procs to enemies affected by it. Similar to, instead of simply applying Confusion, that means Nyx's enemies will now deal 100% increased damage to your other enemies. So basically, if you didn't know this, enemies affected by radiation procs deal more damage to other enemies that are being shot at, basically. So that ability is not being changed very much at all. But the Chaos Orb augment should be pretty good on her to make it where enemies are like walking in and basically, you know, getting rad procced. Because it's a constant chaos field. The thing is, we don't have enough room for all these augments. You gotta pick 1 or 2, to be honest. Alright, Nyx's final ability, Absorb, is being changed a bit. Not exactly the big game-changing buff that most people were hoping for, but it's still a pretty good buff nonetheless. So, Absorb is now a duration-based ability. The way it works right now is like you just like stay on there until you run out of energy, until you decast it. But now it'll have a fixed duration. All of surrounding damage for 5 seconds is absorbed, scaling with duration, and redirect it in a radial explosion, just like how it works right now. Instead of only absorbing damage directed at you, the damage of confused enemies will now be affected by absorb. So basically, if you or you rad proc everything in the area, it's gonna feed into your absorb, which will be a bigger nuke. So sure, like it's still a weird ability that I don't even know why Nyx has it in the first place. But if the ability's staying, then sure. It allows increased energy with chaos and mind control, since the foes will be no longer excluded from this ability. Since it's no longer a channeled ability, the 8 drain per 1,000 damage absorbed mechanic has been removed. So this might be a way to stay permanently invincible as Nyx, but we'll have to see when it comes out. But from what I'm looking at right now, she might be permanently invincible if you play this right. Nyx will also be able to ascend and descend while in Absorb using crouch and jump. So you can basically fly in Absorb now. Not exactly like important, but it's fun for sure. For every 5,000 damage absorbed, Nyx will remain invincible for 1 second after the absorb ends, up to a cap. So this is where you can be permanently invincible with Nyx. So I'll show you their little footage right here, but yeah. If it's not balanced properly, it's going to be like probably like 8 or 10 seconds of invincibility per absorb cast, which sounds pretty funny. Added a weapon damage cap to the ability stat screen for visibility. So showing how this works. Oh, and by the way, here's the Assimilate changes too. The Assimilate augment for Nyx. Assimilate retains its infinite duration, so that's like basically the augment lets you walk around in your absorb. Since we have removed the energy drain per 1,000 damage absorbed, we have increased energy cost from 4 to 6.5 per second to compensate. Added energy drain stat to the mod description since it no longer applies to the base ability. So, Assimilate is going to be a lot better, because the only thing about Assimilate right now is you would instantly drain all your energy if the enemies are super high level. Now, the drain of absorb is no longer affected by the damage you're intaking, so you can just pretty much walk around invincible with Assimilate, is what it sounds like. So that is going to be pretty strong, not to mention that you will be also getting your weapons buffed while in the Assimilate as well. So really, really good stuff. Let's see if I actually have a build here, because I'll be making some new Nyx builds. Okay, this looks like super ancient, but let's just put it out there anyway. So Nyx can move at 50% speed and use weapons while using absorb, but the area effect is reduced by half. So if you just want to walk around really slowly and be invincible, this will be better than ever, because you getting shot at will not drain your energy. So let's just go ahead and unpause them. Look at how fast my energy is going to drain. Well, there's an energy in Exodus, to be fair. So as you can see, as I'm taking damage, my energy bar is going down really, really fast. So going forward, that does not seem like it will be the case. So Wrathful Advance on Nyx. Going to be pretty funny. You can teleport around. Oh. You can teleport around and just be permanently invincible, question mark. So, yeah, maybe look out for a build like this with Nyx in the future, because it seems like it's going to be pretty good. So, yeah. Alright, so that's going to be basically it for Nyx. I do think that the rework for Nyx is quite good. It's not, it's not like new abilities and stuff, but overall, much better. All the abilities are improved. Now, the passive being replaced is definitely, questionable. Let me know how you guys feel about this. Do you think that Nyx's old passive was better, or do you like Nyx's new passive more? The old passive was basically enemies wouldn't shoot at you if there was other enemies to shoot, other targets to shoot at. Enemies are 20% less accurate targeting Nyx Prime. Okay, that doesn't sound very good in practice, but yeah. Now she's a weapon buffer to an extent. I guess it does synergize with what she's trying to do, make the enemies fight each other, and then, you take care of the ones that aren't getting insta-killed by their own teammates. So, in that way, it's good. She doesn't really have any, damage abilities still, which is fine. And, if you really want to reach, the fact that she does radiation procs now means one more proc for condition overload, right? So, that's basically going to be the Nyx rework, guys. I think we might do a second video for the Trinity one maybe on Monday, because I haven't actually looked into that one much and I have to read about it first. So this video's also been long enough. So let me know how you guys feel about Nyx rework in the comments down below. Do you think it is, godly? Do you think it's... I see people saying it's a lot worse than the previous Nyx. I don't agree with that personally, because I think Psychic Bolt's change alone is better than the old Nyx. But I'd love to hear your guys' opinions too. So yeah, Trinity rework overview video on Monday. We'll do a deep dive on that as far as new builds and stuff like that too. Weekly reset video tomorrow, and I appreciate all the support you guys have provided the channel recently. If I sound salty because the infested liches are delayed, it's because I am. It was definitely really disappointing, but complaining about it is going to do nothing. So just want to vent my frustration, and then hopefully just have a really good time with WARFRAME 1999. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye.